For millennia, the grand tapestry of the cosmos had woven tales of colossal empires and star-spanning technologies. Civilizations, forged in nebulae and tempered by black holes, ascended to godlike power, their instruments of war capable of unmaking suns. They convened at Nexus Station, a monument to their boundless might, eager to parade their latest wonders. And then we arrived, not with plasma cannons or gravity drives, but with a whisper of steel and the scent of gunpowder. They saw our rifles, our crude armor, and they laughed. A laughter that echoed through the vast silence of space, a laughter they would soon come to regret, for the galaxy was about to learn that true power isn't found in what you build, but in what you are. The mockery at Nexus Station, the massive viewport of Nexus Station, stretched across half a kilometer, offering a breathtaking view of the Andromeda Spiral. Ships from 1,000 worlds docked at the station's countless ports, their hulls gleaming with technologies that bent light, folded space, and harvested energy from dying stars. It was the most advanced structure in known space, a testament to galactic cooperation and shared knowledge. Captain Elena Rodriguez pressed her palm against the cool metal wall and watched another Zephyrian cruiser glide past. The ship moved without engines, propelled by manipulated gravity fields that made space itself push it forward. Beautiful, elegant, and completely beyond human understanding. Still gives you vertigo, doesn't it? Dr. Marcus Chun joined her at the viewport, adjusting his worn leather jacket. Unlike the flowing robes and biomechanical suits worn by other species, Marcus looked like he had walked out of an old Earth garage. His toolkit was filled with wrenches, screwdrivers, and other analog instruments that made alien engineers laugh. Elena smiled. Every time. Hard to believe we're actually here. Harder to believe they invited us to the exhibition. Marcus gestured toward the central amphitheater where the annual Galactic Defense Exhibition was taking place. For 3 standard cycles, different species would demonstrate their military capabilities, share technological advances, and compete for recognition from the Galactic Defense Council. Through the transparent aluminum walls, they could see the Zephyrians setting up their latest plasma artillery. The weapons looked like crystalline sculptures that sang as they charged, their harmonics resonating through the station's hull. Each shot could level a city block, and the targeting system could track 1 million moving objects simultaneously. Look at that, Elena whispered. A group of Corvin engineers were assembling something that looked like a miniature star. Energy danced around it in impossible patterns, controlled by their thought interface technology. They can literally think their weapons into existence. Marcus nodded grimly. And then there's us. Their equipment sat in the human section like museum artifacts. Kinetic rifles that fired metal bullets, body armor made from Kevlar and ceramic plates, communication devices that used radio waves. Everything looked crude, heavy, and ancient compared to the elegant solutions surrounding them. That a deep, rumbling laugh caught their attention. Commander Vexthar of the Zephyrian fleet approached, his 4 arms spread in what his species considered a friendly gesture. His skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that indicated amusement, though his massive frame and razor-sharp teeth made the expression somewhat unsettling. Captain Rodriguez, Vexthar's voice resonated through his chest cavity, creating harmonic overtones that made nearby equipment vibrate. I trust you are enjoying the exhibition? It's certainly educational, Elena replied diplomatically. Vexthar's laugh grew louder. Educational indeed. I must admit, when the council announced that Terra would be participating, many of us assumed it was some sort of elaborate joke. His bioluminescent patterns shifted to show polite confusion. Your species has been in space for, 200 cycles? Most civilizations require at least 1,000 before they develop weapons worthy of galactic attention. Dr. Chin stepped forward, his jaw tightening. Our weapons work fine, Commander. Oh, I'm certain they do. Vexthar gestured toward the human display with one of his 4 hands. For primitive conflicts against your own species. But surely you understand the vast difference between throwing metal projectiles and manipulating the fundamental forces of reality. A small crowd was gathering. Elena noticed representatives from the Corvin Collective, their insectoid forms clicking with what sounded like laughter. Several aquatic Dominion members floated in their portable water tanks, their tentacles writhing in patterns that indicated derision. Even the usually neutral synthetic Republic sent observer drones that hovered closer, recording everything. Your armor, continued a Corvan engineer, their translator device giving their chittering voice a mechanical quality, it appears to be designed to stop only kinetic impacts. What protection does it offer against plasma, radiation, or psychic attacks? Marcus's hand moved to his sidearm, an ancient design that his grandfather might have recognized. It stops bullets. Sometimes that's all you need. The laughter grew louder. Vexthar's patterns shifted to show genuine pity. My dear humans, I do not wish to embarrass you, but perhaps you would be more comfortable observing rather than participating? No one would think less of you for recognizing your limitations. Elena felt heat rising in her cheeks, but forced herself to remain calm. She had expected this reaction. Earth's military technology was centuries behind the galactic standard. Their ships were slower, their weapons weaker, their defenses practically non-existent by comparison. But there was something these advanced beings didn't understand about humans. Commander Vexthar, she said slowly, I appreciate your concern, but we didn't come here just to observe. Surely you don't intend to participate in the combat simulations. The Corvan engineer's voice rose in pitch, their version of surprise. The scenarios are designed for advanced civilizations. Your equipment would be destroyed in seconds. Then it should be a quick demonstration, Elena replied. Unless, of course, you're concerned that your advanced civilizations might have overlooked something. The amphitheater fell silent. Vexthar's bioluminescent patterns flickered rapidly, a sign of shock among his people. The Corvan engineer's mandibles clicked in agitation. Even the synthetic Republic drones seemed to pause in their hovering. You're serious, Vexthar said finally. Dead serious. Marcus stepped beside her, his weathered face set in determination. We've come a long way to be here, Commander. We might as well see what our primitive technology can do. Vexthar studied them for a long moment, his four eyes focusing on Elena with the intensity of a predator evaluating prey. Then, slowly, his patterns shifted to show amusement mixed with anticipation. Very well, Captain Rodriguez. If you insist on this demonstration, I would be honored to serve as your opponent. He gestured toward the simulation chamber with grandiose flourish. Perhaps watching your forces crumble before superior technology will provide educational value for younger species. The crowd murmured with excitement. Word spread quickly through the station's communication networks. Within minutes, representatives from dozens of species were gathering in the observation galleries. Many activated recording devices, expecting to witness either a spectacular failure or an amusing curiosity. Elena felt the weight of 1,000 eyes upon her as she entered the staging area. Her small team looked impossibly outmatched. 12 humans in basic combat gear, carrying weapons that belonged in a museum, facing off against Zephyrian warriors equipped with plasma rifles, energy shields, and armor that could adapt to any threat in real time. Standard urban warfare scenario, announced the station's AI. Objective: capture and hold Central Command post. Duration: 30 standard minutes. Participants may use any equipment brought to the exhibition. Elena watched as Vexthar's team spread out with practiced efficiency. Their movements were coordinated by neural links that allowed instant communication and tactical updates. Their armor shimmered as it adjusted to the environment, becoming nearly invisible against the simulated cityscape. Nervous? Marcus asked quietly, checking his rifle's ammunition for the third time. Elena looked at her team. Sergeant Walsh from Earth's Marine Corps, barely 25 and scared out of his mind. Dr. Patel, their xenogeologist, who had never fired a weapon outside of training. Lieutenant Kim, their pilot, who preferred flying to fighting. None of them looked like they belonged on the same field as the Zephyrians. But Elena knew something about humans that these advanced aliens didn't understand. She had seen it in history books, in war stories, in the faces of refugees who had walked across continents with nothing but determination. Humans didn't win because they were stronger or smarter or better equipped. Humans won because they refused to lose. Nervous, she chambered around in her rifle. The mechanical sound somehow reassuring in a world of energy weapons and quantum technology. Commander, we're about to show them something they've never seen before. What's that? Elena smiled grimly as the simulation countdown began. What happens when you corner something that doesn't know how to quit? The timer reached 0, and the exhibition began. The impossible victory the simulated city erupted into chaos within seconds of the battle's start. Zephyrian plasma bolts carved through concrete walls like hot knives through butter, leaving molten scars that glowed in the artificial daylight. Their coordinated advance was a thing of beauty from a tactical perspective, each warrior moving in perfect synchronization with their squad mates, their neural links creating a seamless collective consciousness. Elena watched from behind a pile of rubble as 3 Zephyrian soldiers advanced down the main avenue, their energy shields deflecting debris and absorbing impacts. Their armor had adapted to the urban environment, mimicking the texture and color of the surrounding buildings until they were nearly invisible. Contact 12 o'clock, Sergeant Walsh whispered through their analog radio, his voice tight with fear. 3 hostiles, shields up, coming fast. Elena keyed her microphone twice, the agreed-upon signal for hold position. The Zephyrians were expecting a direct confrontation, weapon against weapon, technology against technology. That was how civilized species fought wars in the galactic community. Clean, efficient, decisive. But Elena had studied human military history. She knew about Stalingrad, where Soviet soldiers held a city against impossible odds. She knew about Vietnam, where guerrilla fighters defeated the most advanced military in the world. She knew about Afghanistan, where determination trumped technology decade after decade. Humans didn't fight fair. They fought to win. Marcus, she whispered, is the surprise ready? Dr. Chen's voice crackled through the radio from his position in a bombed-out building. Ready and waiting, Captain. Though I still think this is crazy. Crazy works for us. Elena watched as the Zephyrians passed beneath Marcus's position. Their thermal scanners would have detected human body heat, but Marcus wasn't relying on stealth. He was relying on something far more primitive and far more effective. The explosion wasn't sophisticated. Marcus had simply connected a timer to a chunk of industrial explosive, the kind used for mining operations on frontier worlds. No guidance system, no smart targeting, just basic chemistry and physics. The Zephyrians' energy shields were designed to deflect plasma bolts and particle beams, but they had never been tested against 100 kilograms of crude explosive dropped from directly above. The blast threw 2 of the warriors across the street, their shields overloaded and their armor cracked. The 3rd warrior spun around, plasma rifle charging, looking for targets that weren't there. That's when Sergeant Walsh opened fire. The Zephyrian shield sparked as kinetic rounds hammered against them. Each bullet carried only a fraction of the energy of a plasma bolt, but Walsh was firing 40 rounds per minute, and his bullets were coming from 3 different angles as he moved through the building, using windows and doorways that the Zephyrians' targeting system couldn't track quickly enough. Impossible, Commander Vexthar's voice echoed through the observation gallery. Their projectile weapons shouldn't penetrate energy barriers. But Elena knew something about energy shields that apparently the Zephyrians had forgotten. They were designed to stop high-energy attacks, but they had a critical weakness when it came to sustained low-energy impacts. Each bullet forced the shield to discharge a small amount of power to deflect it. Individually, the drain was negligible, but 40 bullets per minute for several minutes straight. The shield collapsed just as Walsh put his final round through the warrior's chest plate. First squad down, Elena reported calmly. All units, execute plan Crazy Horse. What followed wasn't a battle in any sense that the galactic community would recognize. It was a masterclass in human adaptability and creative problem-solving. Dr. Patel used her knowledge of xenogeology to identify structural weak points in buildings, bringing down walls to block Zephyrian advances. Lieutenant Kim abandoned his position, and moved constantly using mirrors and reflective surfaces to create false targets that confused the enemy's thermal scanners. Elena herself became a ghost, appearing just long enough to take a shot before vanishing into the urban maze. She used construction equipment, abandoned vehicles, and even decorative fountains to mask her movement. When her rifle ran out of ammunition, she picked up debris and threw it to create noise and confusion. The Zephyrians adapted quickly, as Elena knew they would. They began anticipating human tactics, adjusting their formation and scanning patterns to account for unconventional warfare. But every time they thought they understood what the humans were doing, Elena changed the rules. "Sergeant, execute Stalingrad Protocol." Walsh's voice carried a grim satisfaction. "Roger that, Captain. All units, hold positions and let them come to us." The Zephyrians had taken the bait, pushing deep into the city center in pursuit of what they thought was a retreating human force. But Elena had been drawing them into a carefully prepared kill zone, using abandoned buildings and collapsed structures to channel their advance into predetermined pathways. When the trap closed, it was devastating. The humans had turned the entire city center into a maze of choke points and crossfire zones. Every window, every rooftop, every pile of rubble had been prepared as either a firing position or an obstacle. The Zephyrians found themselves caught in a three-dimensional spider web of interlocking fields of fire. "This is not how warfare is conducted." Vexthar's voice carried a note of outrage. "They're using the environment against us. They're turning our own technology into weapons." Elena smiled grimly as she watched Marcus's latest improvisation take effect. The doctor had somehow managed to turn a Zephyrian plasma rifle into an improvised explosive device, using the weapon's own power cell and targeting computer to create a booby trap that detonated when the remaining warriors tried to use it. "That's the point, Commander," Elena said into her radio, knowing that Vexthar was monitoring human communications. "You fight with the tools you have, not the tools you wish you had." The simulation timer showed 18 minutes remaining, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The surviving Zephyrian warriors were trapped in a building that had become a fortress, surrounded by humans who seemed to appear and disappear like phantoms. Their superior technology meant nothing when they couldn't get a clear shot, and their energy shields were useless against improvised explosives and environmental hazards. In the observation gallery, the assembled representatives watched in stunned silence. The Corvin Collective's mandibles clicked in rapid patterns that indicated confusion and disbelief. The Aquatic Dominion members had ceased their derisive tentacle waving, floating motionless in their tanks. Even the Synthetic Republic drones had stopped recording, as if their programming couldn't process what they were witnessing. "Explain this," demanded a Corvin engineer. "How are primitive kinetic weapons defeating plasma technology?" Elena's voice echoed through the gallery as she continued her tactical coordination. "Because we're not fighting your technology, we're fighting you." The final phase of the battle was almost anticlimactic. The remaining Zephyrian warriors, led by Commander Vexthar himself, made a desperate push toward the central command post. They moved with courage and precision, their plasma rifles carving through obstacles and their shields absorbing punishment that would have destroyed lesser forces. But Elena had saved her best surprise for last. As the Zephyrians breached the outer defenses of the command post, they found themselves facing what appeared to be Dr. Chun, standing alone in the center of the room, his hands raised in surrender. It looked like a final, desperate ploy by a beaten enemy. It was actually the most sophisticated trap Elena had ever conceived. The Dr. Chun was a hastily constructed mannequin wearing Marcus's jacket and hat. The real Dr. Chun was 50 meters away, operating a remote detonator connected to every piece of abandoned Zephyrian equipment in the building. When Vexthar and his warriors moved into position to accept Chen's surrender, Marcus triggered every power cell, every energy shield, and every plasma rifle that the humans had captured during the battle. The explosion was visible from orbit. When the smoke cleared, the simulation had ended. Victory, humans. Time remaining. For minutes and 37 seconds in the observation gallery, Commander Vexthar stared at the tactical display in silence. His bioluminescent patterns showed confusion, respect, and something that might have been fear. The truth about humanity. The debriefing chamber aboard Nexus Station fell silent as Captain Elena Rodriguez finished her tactical analysis. The assembled representatives from across the galaxy sat in contemplative quiet, their various appendages, sensors, and bioluminescent displays dim with concentration. Commander Vexthar's massive frame occupied nearly a quarter of the chamber, his 4 arms folded across his chest, bioluminescent patterns cycling through colors that indicated deep thought. "I still don't understand," the Corvan engineer finally chittered, their mandibles clicking in agitation. "Your weapons were inferior. Your armor was primitive. Your communication systems were centuries behind our technology. By every logical calculation, you should have been eliminated within minutes." Elena set down her steaming cup of coffee, one of the few Earth luxuries she had brought to the station. The simple ceramic mug looked absurdly primitive next to the crystalline vessels and biomechanical feeding apparatus used by other species. "That's exactly why we won," she said simply. Doctor Marcus Chin activated a holographic display, showing tactical breakdowns from the simulation. Unlike the elegant three-dimensional interfaces used by other species, his projection was flat and simple, more like an old-fashioned slide presentation. "Every species here fights the same way," Marcus explained. "You develop increasingly sophisticated technology, then you develop tactics to use that technology, then you develop counter-technology to defeat other people's technology. It's an arms race that's been going on for thousands of years." A representative from the Aquatic Dominion, their tentacles undulating slowly in their portable tank, generated harmonic tones that translated as skepticism. "And you suggest this is wrong?" "Not wrong," Elena corrected, "just predictable." She stood and walked to the center of the chamber, feeling hundreds of eyes, sensors, and optical equipment focus on her. She was probably the most technologically primitive being in the room, a representative of a species that still used chemical rockets and radio waves, standing before civilizations that had mastered faster-than-light travel and consciousness transfer. "Every time you developed new technology, you forgot something important about warfare," Elena continued. "You forgot that the goal isn't to have the best equipment. The goal is to win." Commander Vexthar's patterns shifted to show interest mixed with confusion. "Surely victory comes from superior capability?" Elena smiled. "Commander, let me ask you something. In your military history, have your people ever faced an enemy that refused to surrender even when defeat was certain?" Vexthar's patterns flickered. "Occasionally. Such behavior is considered irrational. A civilization that cannot accept defeat when faced with superior force typically destroys itself through futile resistance." "That's where you're wrong," Elena said, "and that's why you lost today." Marcus activated another display, this one showing historical footage from Earth. Images flashed by: soldiers holding trenches against impossible odds, civilians defending their cities street by street, rebels fighting empires with improvised weapons and unbreakable determination. "Human history is full of impossible victories," Marcus explained. "We've been the underdog so many times that we've gotten very good at it. When you have inferior technology, you learn to be creative. When you're outnumbered, you learn to be clever. When everyone expects you to lose, you learn to do the unexpected." A synthetic Republic drone floated closer, its optical sensors scanning Elena's biometric readings. "Your species appears to have an unusually high tolerance for risk and discomfort. Is this an evolutionary adaptation?" Elena laughed. "More like evolutionary necessity. Humans evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill us. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, predators, natural disasters. We survived by being adaptable, not by being the strongest or smartest." She gestured toward the tactical display, showing their victory. "Today, you saw what happens when you apply that mindset to warfare. We didn't try to beat your technology. We made your technology irrelevant." Vexthar leaned forward, his massive frame creaking slightly. "Explain." "Your plasma rifles are incredible weapons," Elena said, "but they're complex. Complex things break, jam, overheat, and run out of power. Our rifles are simple. They work in any environment, they're easy to repair, and they'll function for decades with minimal maintenance. Marcus nodded. Your energy shields can stop almost any directed attack. But they weren't designed to handle sustained kinetic bombardment from multiple angles, especially when combined with environmental hazards and improvised explosives. Your neural communication links give you perfect coordination, Elena continued, but they also make you predictable. Once we figured out your tactical patterns, we could anticipate your moves and set traps accordingly. The Corvin engineer's chittering grew more agitated. You're saying that our technological advancement made us weak? Not weak, Elena corrected. Specialized. You became so good at fighting other advanced civilizations that you forgot how to fight desperate ones. She walked over to the chamber's massive viewport, looking out at the incredible vista of ships, stations, and cosmic phenomena that represented the pinnacle of galactic civilization. Somewhere in that view was Earth, a small blue world that barely registered on most star charts. Every species here has overcome tremendous challenges to reach the stars, Elena said. You've mastered physics, conquered distance, and built wonders that defy imagination. But somewhere along the way, you forgot what it feels like to have your back against the wall with nothing to lose. Vexthar's patterns shifted to show what Elena had learned to recognize as respect. And humans remember this feeling. We live with it every day, Elena replied. We're the newest kids in the galactic neighborhood. Our technology is primitive, our ships are slow, our weapons are crude. Every day, we face challenges that could destroy us as a species. That keeps us sharp. That keeps us creative. That keeps us dangerous. A long silence fell over the chamber. Elena could hear the subtle sounds of breathing, mechanical processes, and bioelectrical activity from the various species present. She realized that many of them were probably experiencing something they hadn't felt in centuries. Uncertainty. Finally, Commander Vexthar rose to his full, impressive height. His bioluminescent patterns cycled through a complex sequence that Elena's cultural briefings had told her represented formal acknowledgement of a worthy opponent. Captain Rodriguez, Vexthar said, his harmonic voice carrying undertones of respect. I owe you an apology. I underestimated your species because I confused technological advancement with military capability. He gestured toward the tactical display, still showing the humans' impossible victory. You have taught me something valuable today. Perhaps advancement and sophistication are not the same thing. Elena smiled. Commander, there's an old human saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Vexthar's patterns shifted to show amusement. Your species seems to have many sayings about warfare. We have many sayings about everything. That's another human trait. We learn from our mistakes, and we pass those lessons down through stories, sayings, and traditions. The Corvin engineer clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps we should learn more about these human traditions. Dr. Chin grinned. Commander, if you're serious about that, I'd recommend starting with something called asymmetric warfare. Humans wrote the book on it. As the debriefing concluded and the various representatives began to disperse, Commander Vexthar approached Elena privately. His bioluminescent patterns were set to a formal diplomatic configuration. Captain Rodriguez, I have a proposition for you. Elena raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. The Galactic Defense Council has been discussing the possibility of joint training exercises. After today's demonstration, I believe there is much we could learn from human tactical approaches. Elena felt a surge of pride. When humanity had first reached for the stars, they had dreamed of being accepted as equals among the galactic community. Today, they had earned that acceptance not through superior technology or advanced science, but through something uniquely human, the refusal to accept defeat. Commander, she said, extending her hand in the ancient human gesture of agreement, I think that could be very educational for everyone involved. As Vexthar carefully grasped her small hand with one of his massive appendages, Elena looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, other species were probably laughing at humanity's primitive technology and crude weapons. They would keep laughing right up until they found themselves facing humans who refused to lose. In the distance, Earth continued its slow orbit around an unremarkable yellow star, its people unaware that their reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous underdogs had just been officially established. And somewhere in the deepest vaults of the Galactic Defense Council's archives, a new file was created with a simple designation: Human Combat Doctrine, Approach with Extreme Caution. The age of human warfare among the stars had begun not with advanced weapons or superior technology, but with something far more dangerous: the unbreakable human spirit and the refusal to quit when victory seemed impossible. In the end, that was all they ever needed.